I call David Seymour, 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the ACT Party, I rise in support of this bill. Mr. Speaker, I'm here to say all the things that the National Caucus have been thinking, but have not been able to say. Mr. Speaker, a former member, Richard Prebble, once told me that in a parliamentary debate one should seek to respond to the earlier contributors. But having just listened to the last 3 speeches, there's very little scope for that. So let me just say a few other things. This emissions trading scheme is a piece of Swiss cheese public policy. It is so filled with holes, and deliberately so, that it never quite achieves its objective, and yet it also gives the impression that the government is trying to do something. And we saw that in the Minister's speech last night when she first moved this bill, that she said, well, it's going to do quite a bit, and then each time she said that, she pulled back and said, but it won't actually have any biting effects on real activity. So, Mr. Speaker, the fact that there was a 2-for-1 discount on carbon credits in the first place tells you everything you need to know about the seriousness of the emissions trading scheme. And throughout the scheme's history, there's been a whole host of adjustments: what sort of credits you can redeem within New Zealand, what sort of activities are included, and when they're going to be included. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, that it is designed to give the impression of doing something without actually binding any sector to change their behaviour, and at the same time providing vast amounts of room for political horse trading and manoeuvring. Mr. Speaker, the emissions trading scheme is and has always been an utter joke. And today we find ourselves debating under urgency, as part of a budget measure, the removal of the 2-for-1 discount, which should never have been needed in a serious piece of public policy designed to reduce emissions in the first place. So, Mr. Speaker, what might we have been debating if we were serious about this problem, which of course the reality is, and sadly for our colleagues in the Greens, the overwhelming majority of the population is not. And that is, we could have been debating the introduction of a simple, transparent, uniform carbon tax. If New Zealand was serious, if the population, if the people of New Zealand really wanted to reduce their carbon emissions and were prepared to make a commitment to doing so, then what we might have done is been here debating the introduction of a carbon tax. And we haven't, Mr. Speaker, because its simplicity and its transparency and its effectiveness are all the reasons why it doesn't fulfil the role that the emissions trading scheme has fulfilled in New Zealand politics. It bites evenly on everybody that emits greenhouse gases, and it actually doesn't have any room for any political manoeuvring or horse trading. Mr. Speaker, that would be a sensible policy committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions in New Zealand. The emissions trading scheme is not, and this urgent debate about the 2-for-1 discount is just another manifestation of its long history of political horse trading. So, Mr. Speaker, I nonetheless am in support of this bill. It is a public policy abomination, but on balance, I'd much rather keep these people over here in government, because believe it or not, in spite of everything that I've said about the emissions trading scheme and the bill that we're debating today, these people are far, far worse. Mr. Speaker, these people occasionally make a public policy mistake, but you look over here and you think, oh my God, thank God their mistakes are so minor compared with what these parties often threaten the New Zealand public with. So, Mr. Speaker, not a particularly desirable piece of legislation, not a particularly desirable situation to be here debating under urgency the removal of this discount, but nonetheless, all the best for New Zealand that I support it. Keep these people over here, those people over there.